Good morning and welcome to America's Home Cooking. Today I'm making a bison quiche, and bison is buffalo meat, and that's what I'm doing today. Now I have to make a crust. I don't buy the pre-made crust at all, so I want to explain some of the things about why a crust is done in a certain way. When you do the flour and you add your salt and you mix it up, right? But then you put the shortening in and you work the shortening with a pastry cutter or 2 knives until it's crumbly. Now, after you do that, you sit there and you add water in and you make it into a dough and you roll it and you stick it in the refrigerator. Now, the object of sticking it in the refrigerator is the shortening isn't completely mixed with the flour and the water, though it looks like it's all together. But when you stick it in the refrigerator, what happens is that shortening is going to get a little hard. So then when you roll it out and stick it in the oven to bake before you add your ingredients to the quiche, the water in the flour is going to evaporate, and then what you have is flour and shortening, and the shortening will melt through it. So that's where you get your crusty flakes from. Don't ask me if mine's crusty. I'm still working on it. But anyway, that is the dynamics of why you do what you do. And the reason we put, when you make your own pastries, pie crust, sorry about that, we're not in the pastry, we're in the pie crust, you put wax paper in the bottom here. You cut it out and you put it on the bottom. Why do you do that? Because it burns. It will literally burn on the bottom. So this is why we cut out the wax paper and put it there. You know what? I forgot my measuring cup. Now this is going to be a 1 crust because it is a quiche that we're making. I can't wait to try this. This one's coming out of my head. I've been making some quiches and I've been thinking, you know, always make sure it's level, please. And I said, you know, bison should go very well with this. I want to make a bison meatloaf and bison hamburgers because I've got the wild game in there, seasoning. I think I gave it to you. If I didn't, when I make it again, I'll definitely give it to you. And I just think it'll be delicious as a hamburger. Now, I'm not sure what kind of hamburger rolls I want to make. Like I said, I've got different ones, so I never know. All right, we need a half a teaspoon of salt. I'm going to use my salt mixture. Then I'm going to add a tablespoon of wheat germ for the B vitamins that we're going to need. I'm going to have to get another package out. Now we're going to mix this up. So now you understand the dynamics of why we do what we do when we're making crusts. I just put everything in here. I'm mixing it up now. My mother didn't always have time to put it in the refrigerator, but they do recommend putting it into the refrigerator to give that time for that shortening to get cold. Now we need, how much do we need? I'll put my glasses back on. Sometimes the print is very fine and hard to see. We need 1/3 cup shortening. That's 5 tablespoons plus 1 teaspoon. Another way of doing it. Now the best pie crust is if you have lard. Well, I have to make that. And I'm thinking about getting some from the butcher at Staten Island Meats, so I can make my lard. He asked me, which one do you want? And I said, let me go back and get to my cookbooks again. I can't remember. Last time I made lard was with goose fat. And the godfather of our children taught me and my husband both how to make that, because we did not know. And the reason you do not use hot water is you don't want to melt the shortening. That's why they tell you to use cold water. when you're at this stage working it. So as they used to say, there's a madness to what I'm doing. I see my father doing something, and he says it's my madness. What it is they've learned through trial and error that you have to do it this way. It doesn't mean they're crazy or anything, but it just means these are the rules that we found out through trial and error. You have to go through these steps. These steps that I teach you are actually disappearing at a very fast rate. Everybody, when I was young learning, basically knew all of this. And we're talking 1, 2, 3, 4 generations, and these children are learning to buy instant food. I saw one woman go into a grocery store. She spent $60 and came out with 7 things, and she was very upset. She didn't know how to cook. And if you could grow a garden, oh my God, and harvest your own food. I got rhubarb out there. I want to make a rhubarb pie. Now see how crumbly it is? Now we're going to start adding, but we have to add these tablespoons and work each one individually. Now we need 2 tablespoons of cold water. I'm running my cold water. If the water is warm or something, it can melt the shortening, and then you lose the flakiness that you're looking for. Okay, here's one. Now, if you don't work it enough, it doesn't mix enough, and then you end up having to add more water. Whereas, if you do it this way, you can actually see it coming together. I've only added 1 tablespoon, and look how it's coming together very, very nicely. I have some people that come on and said, I think I can make that, that's easy. It's basically learning the rules. And then by showing you what it looks like, it helps you to be able to say, okay, now I know what it looks like. So when it gets to this stage, I know what I have to do. And that's what it comes down to. Because a lot of cooking is show and tell. And then as you learn the terminologies and stuff, and you've already seen what it's supposed to look like, then you can move forward and you sit there and say, I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. My mother exposed me to a lot of baking because most of the terminologies actually go into the baking department more than anything. There's a few for the meats and the fish and stuff like that and vegetables, but when the terminology really comes into play, it's in the baking. Unless you're making your own cheese and stuff, and then it has another terminology with like cheese making and I guess salamis and stuff like that. But the thing is that most of the terminologies in cooking are for the baking department. That's why my mother got me into baking very early. I'm learning that candy has a special language, but it still does not have as much as the baking department. Any way you look at it, the baking department is really the one where if you know those, you can pretty much maneuver. My sons love their lollipops. I've already had one for the last 2 days. I've had one each day, and I have enjoyed my own lollipops. They're not so sweet like what you got in the store. I didn't add any coloring to them, but those lollipops are actually blueberry ones. But I had made mistakes, and I just said, I'm not adding any color. I want to see what I'm doing and where I'm going wrong. And that's what I did. Now this crust we're going to stick in the refrigerator, and we're just going to let it sit. I might not get to it for a couple of hours, but I will end this video and just mark it as a flaky crust. But at least I told you what I'm going to do with it. Now they want you to make it into a disc. When they say a disc, they actually mean a flat round. Don't have it too big, but you don't need to have it too small. You see? And if you could see, let me see if I can get it up close. You'll actually be able to see the shortening throughout some of it. So you can see why we do it this way. Let's see if you can see it. I don't know if you can see it, but can you see the shortening throughout it? That's what you want. I just ordered another cookbook. I know. Listen, by the time I leave this earth, I'll probably have 300 cookbooks, knowing me. A very bad habit. Well, I don't think it's a bad habit, but I could say it's a bad habit. You have an artist, he'll sit there and get more colors and paints and everything you need. And if you get somebody who loves gardening, he'll have 1,000,001 things in his garden department. I think we all go a little overboard, but it's so much fun. So listen, you take care, and I'll see you later today when we put this quiche together and when we prepare this crust and what we have to do to make sure it is a crusty, flaky crust. Bye-bye for now.